before we get started, we're waiting for a quorum of members to show up. So thank you. Before we begin today's hearing, I have a couple of housekeeping announcements to make. First, we have a letter from the Speaker appointing Assemblymember Mike Allen to the committee in place of Assemblymember Isidore Hall for today's hearing only. Assemblymember Allen, thank you for joining us today. Thank you. Second, in today's Assembly daily file, there are 4 bills listed on the committee agenda. After the daily file went to print, one of those bills, AB 299 by Assemblymember Ng, was pulled from the hearing. As a result, there are only 3 bills on the agenda today. And we have a quorum, so Madam Secretary, can you please call roll?
Fong.
Here.
Logue. Bonilla. Allen.
Here.
Mendoza. Swanson.
Present.
Valadeo.
Here.
It's 4.
Okay. Meeting's called to order. First, we have a bill from Julia Brownlee, AB 1148. Please come up. Okay. Due to upcoming committee deadlines and to give everyone a little more time to get these amendments right, I'm going to recommend that we take a vote on this bill without any amendments, but with the understanding that the commitment that the amendments we discuss will be taken by the author before the bill is heard in the Assembly Appropriations Committee.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. And I do want to thank the chair and his staff for working with me on this important transparency measure and allowing me to introduce the author's amendments that were outlined in page 5 and 6 in the analysis. I'd also like to accept the technical amendment on page 10 and the suggested amendment on page 9 with the hopes that we can continue to discuss an appropriate timeline to calculate cumulative contributions without ceding legislative authority. And I also want to say that your staff has been very, very helpful and extraordinary. I want to thank them for that. AB 1148 is a bill to help cast light on spending in elections by disclosing major funding sources directly on advertisements. Campaign spending has reached unprecedented levels in recent years, in particular spending on independent expenditures as seen across the nation by super PACs in the presidential primary and in California, where it is not uncommon for an independent expenditure, and i.e. spending, to exceed the total amount of direct spending by all candidates in a race. Although there are limits on the amount of direct contributions candidates can receive, funders can make unlimited contributions to help candidates through independent expenditure committees and to ballot measure committees that continue to significantly shape the way California is governed. However, many of these committees often establish themselves in a way that hides who exactly is funding the campaign messages that voters see and hear. A recent field poll found that Californians believe reforms should be made to weaken the influence special interests have asserted over direct democracy intended to empower the average citizen. It found that 84% of voters, 86% of Democrats, 78% of Republicans, 88% of independents believe that public disclosure requirements of initiative sponsors must more clearly identify who are its major funders. Similar polling data has found that voters would find it helpful if these facts are specifically included on advertisements, which many cite to be their primary source for campaign information. AB 1148 will require that the largest major funders of political advertisements for candidates. Thank you. Thank you. Should I continue? Will require the largest major funders of political advertisements for candidates and ballot measures in California to be clearly and unambiguously identified directly on all mediums of advertisements, including television, radio, print, and mass mailer ads. In the majority of cases, the disclaimers will actually be shorter than those currently required, while delivering information in a way that is simpler for voters to understand. It would also require campaign committees to maintain a website where the largest major funders are listed so voters are able to easily access this important information at all times. It is the First Amendment right for campaigns to communicate with voters, but the Supreme Court has repeatedly found disclosure of campaign funds to be constitutional and necessary to prevent corruption. The recent Citizens United decision justified unlimited independent expenditures only because, quote, disclosure permits citizens to react to the speech in a proper way, end the quote. This transparency enables the electorate to make informed decisions and give proper weight to different speakers and messages. AB 1148 is being carefully drafted in this regard. At a time when public confidence in government and the electoral process has hit rock bottom, strengthening disclosure requirements on political advertisements is necessary to help Californians be better informed and proudly participate in an open and transparent democracy. And I thank you for moving the bill and the second. And of course, I respectfully ask for the aye vote on this. And I have Mr. Trent Lang here from the California Clean Money Campaign to testify, as well as Mr. Bob Stern, the former president of the Center for Governmental Studies.
Thank you. Trent Lang, President of the California Clean Money Campaign. Thank you, Assemblymember Brownlee, for bringing this very critical bill. Thank you, members of the committee. I think that the amounts of money that have been unleashed since the Citizens United decision, the amounts of anonymous money, really show the need for this. Over $235 million was spent in 2010 California ballot measures alone, most of it by anonymous groups, so you couldn't tell who was paying for it. Nationally, you see presidential candidates being swamped in their spending by independent expenditures. And here in California, the FPPC found that an over 6,000% increase in independent expenditure spending since 2000. So in almost all of this, the voters do not know who is paying for the ads. AB 1140 is very simple and straightforward, just changing the current requirements in the Political Reform Act to state that the top 3 funders and their logos have to be on screen for 3 seconds, just long enough for voters to know who is funding the ads, with a link to a website that will give further disclosure. Similar kinds of disclosures in print statements, radio ads also, rather than paid for by Stop Hidden Taxes, a coalition of, that speed reader, it would be replaced with the simple top 3 funders of this ad are X, Y, and Z. Full funding details go to this website. So it's simple, straightforward. There are still details to work out. We're happy to work with the committee to get this right. As you can see, there's a huge amount of public support for this. This is a stack of over 15,000 signatures of Californians from all across the state who've signed a petition urging all Assembly members and state senators to vote yes on the California Disclose Act. And there are many people today, as you can see here, from all around the state who wish to testify for it. So we respectfully ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Witnesses support?
Hi, I'm Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Bob Stern. I'm past president of the Center for Governmental Studies. I've helped draft California's campaign finance disclosure laws. As one of your past committee consultants, I worked on the Waxman-Dimely Campaign Disclosure Act, which was passed by the legislature in 1973, an excellent disclosure bill. I'm also principal co-author of the Political Reform Act of 1974, and I was the first general counsel of the Fair Political Practices Commission. And I also helped draft the current disclosure laws requiring ballot measure groups to list their top donors in ads, and this was passed in 1996. We already have many disclosure provisions on the books that require disclosure on ads, be they TV, radio, mass mailings, or phone calls. The mass mailing requirements, I'm sure you're familiar with it, have been on the books since 1974. And the legislature passed provisions in 2006 requiring disclosure of who was making telephone calls, if the candidates or the committees were making these mass telephone calls. Unfortunately, despite my best efforts to provide for disclosure to California voters, what I've found is that the voters really don't go to the campaign statements. they don't get the information unless they see it on the ads, and that's why this bill is so important. And I think this bill really extends what's already on the books in many, many ways. California should be a leader in mandating disclosure laws, and this bill really helps in that way. Thank you so much.
Okay, any other witnesses in support? If you care to line up and on this mic and state your name and the organization that you're with, just go ahead and do so. Yeah, that mic.
You want me to be first? Yes. Oh, okay. Where's the speaker? Hi, my name is Philip Harlan, and on my right.
Wait, Phil, come over here. Right here.
Okay.
Speak loud.
Hi, my name is Philip Harlan, and on my right is Liz Basilia, and we between us, we represent the North County Democratic Club, of which I am president, and she's the Santa Rosa Democratic Club. We represent over 500 members in support of AB 1148. Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Chair Fong and the members of this committee, I would like to say I'm Michelle Romero, and I'm here on behalf of the Green Lining Institute, a multi-ethnic public policy organization that works on behalf of low-income communities and communities of color. We have been, for the past several months, doing some interesting research on ballot initiatives in California and how initiative campaigns affect low-income communities and people of color. And in doing some public opinion polling and a listening tour where we got to go out and talk with real voters across the state, we found that improving disclosure on political advertisements is particularly important among low-income households that don't have access to the internet. It is one of the primary sources of information they have, and so it's really important that we pierce through and know who's really behind the ads. I will leave you with this. If anybody is unsure today how to do right by your constituents and what the people really want, we have findings from a recent poll in December 2011 that show that 59.4% of voters would be less likely to vote for their state legislator if they knew that they had voted against improving disclosure on political advertisements. And so there's a lot of public opinion polling that shows strong support for disclosure, and that just indicates how much this level of support is. 50% of Democrats who would be less likely to vote and 52% for Republicans. So you see that all Californians really care about this. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jo Sedita. I'm founder and chair of California Clean Money Campaign. Thank you. The disclosure is one of the most important issues, and I've been reading publications across the nation, and so many people are saying now is the time. I urge you to pass this and let California, the Sunshine State, bring sunshine and the leadership to the rest of the nation on disclosure.
Thank you.
After that Supreme Court decision, we got to get this junk settled.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Donald Pruitt, and I'm from Sonoma County, and I urge you to pass this bill.
Thank you.
My name is Marie McDonald. I live in Walnut Creek, and I'm a member of the Democratic E-Board, Executive Board, and also a member of the Democratic Progressive Caucus, who has supported this bill and endorsed it. Ask you, please vote for it.
Thank you.
Craig Dunkerley, Vice President, Santa Clara County Democratic Club, urge strong support for this bill.
I'm Jerry Bailey. I belong to several organizations that are in support of this bill, but for today I'm wearing the hat of the 900,000 California Alliance for Retired Americans who are in solid support behind this bill, and urge you please to vote for this bill so that we can return to democracy in California. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Mikhail Allen from Petaluma. I'm here today with the California Clean Money campaign. And as a citizen, I feel it's extremely important to know precisely who is spewing which propaganda. I read everything, and it's really difficult. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carol Cross, retired kindergarten teacher from Redwood City, representing the Social Action Committee of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Redwood City.
Gloria Purcell from Belmont, California, Green Party Chair for San Mateo County.
Nancy Neff from Palo Alto, and I'm a member of the Peninsula Democratic Coalition, which is strongly in support of this bill. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leolena Lawrence from Moraga, California. I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Diablo Valley. The League has a long history of support for disclosure, and I would like to give a tip of the hat to Assemblymember Bonilla for her support for this bill. Thank you.
I'm Elza Schaefer from Belmont, California, representing the San Mateo County DFA, which has voted to support this disclosed bill and thinks it's the most important legislation going through California this year. Thank you so much.
David Sonneborn from the city of Orange and Orange County. Bring you greetings and urge your support from a variety of organizations and clubs from North, South, East, West, Central, Orange County that you will see on your endorsers list. Thank you.
I'm Phyllis Castle from Palo Alto, California, member of the League of Women Voters of Palo Alto. Please endorse this bill.
I'm Lee Frank from San Fernando Valley. I represent, or at least a member of Valley Dems United, who have endorsed this urgently needed bill.
I'm Rolene Walker from San Francisco. I'm part of the San Francisco Disclose Working Group, and I would like to urge you to vote for this as well. I'm also the legislative representative for the National Association of Retired Federal Employees, who are also very interested in this bill. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Dr. Christian Gunderson, California State Assembly candidate for the 10th. Thank you for your vision.
Carolyn Curtis, Palo Alto, founding co-chair, former, of the Dean Democratic Club of Silicon Valley, which is the Santa Clara County DFA group, and we've been in support of clean money legislation since our founding practically in 2004. We work for this. We ring doorbells. Thank you.
Marcine Van Dierendonk from the Dean Democratic Club of Silicon Valley. And misrepresentation of who you are in an ad is fraud. Thank you.
Donald Simon, attorney from Marin County, urging your aye vote. And for any of you who are interested, we'd welcome any co-authors to this bill in this effort. Thank you.
I am John Goodman from Garden Grove, California, and a member of the California Campaign for a Healthy California Orange County chapter, which has endorsed this bill. I come from the center of the John Birch territory, and I find that an overwhelming majority of all the people I talk to every day join me in urging you to vote yes for this important bill.
Good afternoon. My name is Judy Cox. I'm a former League of Women Voters, president of the City of Oakland, one of 7 people that ran this successful campaign for ranked choice voting in Oakland. And I'm also co-chair of the Clean Money Working Group in the East Bay of Northern California. I would like to ask you to support this. It is an important piece of legislation. The voters deserve to know who is paying for ads. People who place those ads have a responsibility to stand by their ad. Thank you.
Don Mayall from Palo Alto and the Dean Democratic Club of Silicon Valley. We urge your yes vote. Thank you.
Rania Cohen from Emeryville, California, and representing the La Marinda Democratic Club, which is a co-sponsor.
I'm William Phillips here from Petaluma,
urging you to pass this legislation and wanting to point out that it's all over the newspapers day after day, this issue, and it warrants your attention and certainly warrants getting passed. Thank you.
I'm Stan Gold from Petaluma in Sonoma County. This issue is about transparency. I think most of us can agree that the more information, the more accurate information and complete information a voter has, the more intelligent judgment he or she will make when they go to the polls, hopefully. This supplies that information. It's all about transparency versus obscurity. I trust you'll do your job. Thank you very much.
My name is Elaine Woodruff. I'm from Petaluma, California. That's in Sonoma County, and I support this bill.
Hi, I'm Patty Regier, and I'm from Palo Alto, California, and I support this bill. Thank you.
I'm Darlene Powell from Fresno, California. I urge you to support this important bill.
Yes. You got a lot of folks.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Christy Baumer, representing the California Professional Firefighters. We support this bill in concept. We're completely supportive of disclosure and ask for your aye vote.
Hi, my name is Risa De Ferrari, and I represent the Green Chamber of Commerce, and I'm from Marin County, and I urge you to vote. Thank you.
Green Chamber.
Raphael McMahon, San Francisco, Berkeley Heights Democratic Club. Please vote in favor of 1148.
I'm Catherine Gerwig from Sacramento County, and I support this bill. Thank you.
Chuck White from Folsom, one of the Citizens United for Transparency.
Roland William Breidenbach, Davis, Yolo County, California.
Support.
Hello, I'm Trudy Schaefer, representing the League of Women Voters of California. We strongly support AB 1148 as a way to bring transparency to the people.
Hello, Yvonne Chambers with the Planning and Conservation League, also in support.
Good afternoon. My name is Jerry Hunt. I'm a retired CPA from San Jose, and I urge you to vote yes on this bill. Thank you.
Dorothy Nabel, Sacramento.
John O'Brien, Petaluma.
Philip Ong on behalf of California Common Cause. Mr. Chair, we're in strong support of this bill. We think that this is probably the safest political vote you're probably ever going to make in your career, and we hope that you vote aye on it and the rest of the committee as well, simply because 80% of Californians from all geographics, all ethnic demographics, all age demographics are in support of this bill. We know that Ms. Brownlee told you a part of that field poll, but if you look deeper into it, it is broad support. And so we hope that you will show your support for this bill as well. Thank you.
Jeff Whittington, San Francisco for Democracy, Noe Valley Democratic Club, Citizens Climate Lobby, and strong support.
Rick Bettis, Sacramento League of Women Voters and Common Cause, in support. Thank you.
Jean Lamar from Sunnyvale, California, and I support this bill. I hope you will too. Thank you.
My name is Eleanor Garabedian, and I urge you to vote on this very important bill. Thank you.
Sally Garcia Mink, social worker from Fresno.
Janice Romero Nielsen, Fresno.
Bill Walzer from Berkeley in support.
Connie Peterson from Fresno. Thank you for your support.
Myra Coble from Fresno. Thank you.
Monisha Mustafa, Vice President of Political Action of the Potrero Hill Club of San Francisco, endorses.
Ellen Shireman, San Francisco. Thank you for your support.
My name is John Carter. I'm with Support for Disclosure, Alameda, California.
Hi, I'm Steve Grass, and I'm from Sacramento, California.
Mary Gill, Stanford, California.
Larry Mullen, Fresno, California.
John Fioretta, San Jose, California, retired prosecutor.
My name is Trina Ray, and I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I work for NASA, and I flew up this morning.
Dr. Michael Dillon from Fair Oaks, California.
Herb Engstrom, Treasurer of the California Democratic Council.
Amy Davis, Fresno, California.
Francesca Rufo, Placer County.
Tina Rufo, resident of Placer County.
Nancy Copps, San Jose.
Laura Levin, San Jose.
Liv Ames from San Jose.
Brian Stomp, Novato, California, Western Packaging and Display, small business, ask you vote for.
Greg Brockbank, former Santa Fe City Council member, College Board of Trustees. Please vote yes. Thank you.
Joni Eisen, Potrero Hill Democratic Club, San Francisco, strongly endorses.
Janice Meslin, Mission Viejo from Orange County.
Brett Garrett, Redwood City, San Mateo County.
Joy Dahlgren, San Rafael.
Elise Haylett, San Francisco.
Ben Hansel, a student from San Francisco.
Susan Ray, San Mateo.
Ellen O'Toole, San Mateo County, Democracy for America.
Okay. I'm Shirley Shellingoski from the La Miranda Democratic Club, and I'm a retired state parole agent.
Joe Ely, Pleasanton.
Hi, I'm Tom Rossi from San Leandro, California, and I'd like you to support AB 1148 because the right to free speech doesn't include the right to anonymity. Stand up for what you say. Thank you.
I'm Jules Brouillet from Palo Alto, and I support the Disclose Act. Thank you.
I'm Ray Stout from Livermore, and I urge you to pass 1148. Thank you.
I'm Kevin Wolf from Davis, and I support 1148.
Dave Kay, supporter from Davis.
Laura Rychek from Petaluma, here to urge you to support this bill as one of the most important legacy you can leave behind. Thank you.
Jackie Leonard from Healdsburg and Occupy Santa Rosa. We support the Disclose Act. Thank you.
My name is Jordan Smith. I'm a resident of Sonoma County, and I strongly urge you to pass this bill.
Joel Robinson from Glen Ellen. I support this bill. Thank you.
Michael O'Looney from Santa Rosa, and I strongly advocate passage of this bill.
Rick Massell, Windsor, Sonoma County, supports this bill. Windsor Democratic Club.
Jean Shu, San Jose, I urge you to support this bill. Let's pass it and get things clean.
Okay. Is that all the witnesses in support? Some more? All right. That's it. Witnesses in support?
Michael Boulder with Service Employees International Union. We don't have a position on the bill at this time as we're neutral, and we continue to work with the author and the sponsors on the bill to address a couple of concerns that we have. But we'd like to see the bill to continue to move forward as we work with the author and the sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jai Suprasad with the California School Employees Association. We also have, unfortunately, a neutral position, but we have been working with the author. I think it's an important issue, but we are also mindful that when you do put up take up space, that means it's time on messaging that we are concerned about, the cost and all those implications. And we're trying to find a way, if there's a way to tie it to existing resources or existing information that you can refer it to as a way to address it in some way. So we understand this is an important issue and want to keep working with the author. Thank you.
Witnesses in support? One more witness in support?
Robert Hoffman from Oakland, California, and I urge your support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all the witnesses in support? Okay, witnesses in opposition. Any witnesses in opposition to this bill? None? Okay. 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 All right. Questions from assembly members from the dais. Tony Mendoza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Browning, for bringing this bill forward. Last year, this bill came before this committee, and it was I think the limit last year was about 50,000, if I remember correctly. And it's I believe it's a similar bill, but this time the bill has changed into. Right, it changed to 10,000, and just wondering, you don't remember this? This is a different bill?
This is the first time we've been before the committee, but I think existing law is $50,000.
Existing law is $50,000, and the original draft of the bill did have a $50,000 limit.
Right.
The goal of making it down to 10,000. This would also apply at the local level, and 50,000 is too high. Sorry, 50,000 is too high of a threshold for local races in most cases. So the 10,000 was amended for that reason. But it's still only the top three funders of any committee that will ever really be affected, because no matter how much it is, only the top three will be shown on the ads.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I kind of have an issue with that too, because 50,000. I mean, we know who they are. When you drop it down to 10, that's a lot of groups. It could potentially be a lot of groups. My next question is, okay, so there's 10 groups. Each one gave 10,000. Which three ads did you pick?
Well, the way the bill is crafted at this moment in time, when you make the contribution, you have to state the company and your employer, and then they would collect all of those together. And if that combination coming from all the same source was one of the top funders, then they would then qualify.
No, that's not what I'm asking is, there's 10 groups. Each one, 10 people, 10 companies, 10 somebody. Each one gave 10,000. Which one gets the three ads? Which three gets the ads?
In current code, it's chronological order, and how they came into order would be the chosen.
So you're keeping the same. The first three get to be publicized first.
We're not changing current law at this point, though. We're certainly open to suggestion on how that should be done.
Right. So that's why I kind of like, if it's, so you basically, if you wanna bypass this reporting issue, just go ahead and wait for the first three to come in, and then you go ahead and give the 10,000 afterwards or more.
Well, you can also give $1 less, and then you wouldn't be in the top three. But then you'd be giving less, and then you would, and the other three will have to be disclosed.
Okay.
The original three. Somebody is going to have to be disclosed.
Yeah, so if there's 3 donors for 50,000, then the 10,000 donors are gone. It doesn't really matter because the top 3, right? Okay. You don't address the internet issue, right? Internet ads, political internet ads. I don't see it on this bill.
I'm sorry. The bill covers video advertisements, so any YouTube advertisement or any online video advertisements
How about
would
the
be
ads
covered.
that pop up on the internet?
They are not yet in this bill. No.
Okay, so that's not covered. I had another one that has to do with the same reporting issue. Is there any way that you could probably go back and try to add some of those things or take them out or anything like that? Or I don't know what kind of time restraints this bill is on, Mr. Chair.
It's a tight one. We have to get it out before the end of this month from the assembly floor. So after we vote on it, it goes to appropriations next week, and it goes to the floor after that. And so it's a pretty tight timetable.
Okay.
Certainly, if there are significant amendments,
Yeah.
that if the bill continues to move forward and significant amendments, it will come back to the committee.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
That done? Okay. Mike Allen?
Yes. Assemblymember Brownlee, I want to thank you for bringing this forward, and I, for one, intend to vote yes on this measure. I would also like to be added as a co-author. I feel that this bill is a step in the right direction. I would also encourage you to work with those folks who are neutral, who have some concerns, to take a look at those concerns. If there's ways that under the short timeline we can strengthen the bill, disclosure, transparency is an important thing. So I just want to thank you so much for bringing it here before us. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Assemblymember Valadeo?
Assemblymember Brownlee, if a person decided they wanted to create their own committee, one wealthy person put their own committee, and what would they put on the ad? Would they put the committee name, or would they put
this wealthy person created the committee?
If one person created a committee,
it would be the person's name and the
or would it be the committee's
right?
name that actually wrote the check for the ad?
It would be in the current version of the bill, it would be the name of the committee, which would include the name of the largest funder if they gave over $50,000.
Okay, and so if there's 4 or 5 guys that gave $25,000 for that committee, it would still just list that one committee.
At this point, yes, I think one of the things we want to look at with the committee and the author is extending that for those sorts of cases. But at this point, yes.
All right, thank you.
Susan Bonilla.
Thank you, and I appreciate you bringing this forward. And I think it's always interesting. We want to strive for perfection, but sometimes we can't get perfection. And we know that people are clever. We know there's ways to work around everything we put in place, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be putting it in place and then continuing our vigilance. And so sometimes it has to be a step forward, or hopefully a few step forwards, as in this case. And I believe that is accomplished in this bill. And sure enough, there will be ways around it, and then we'll address that. And I think that's we've seen a really good progression. And I've heard comments about California and being the sunshine state and a leader in this. And so we don't necessarily have to achieve perfection to say that this is really a good step forward and does lead the way, I think, nationwide and certainly within this state to achieve what the voters want and what we want. And that is really honesty. We use the word transparency, but what we really want is the truth and the real information out there for the public. And you just have to ask the question that if you believe in something so much that you're going to put money behind it, why wouldn't you want people to know that? So I will be supporting this bill.
Thank you. Sandri Swanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And let me thank the author for the bill. I'm happy to be a co-author, and really transparency is necessary for us to build on and make stronger our democracy. It's fundamental. And so I appreciate all the energy around this bill. I think that as the bill makes its way through the process, if there are issues, the author is very conscientious and will be able to address those issues. And so I think it's important that the bill move forward, Mr. Chairman, and that's why I moved the bill.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded already. All right. Thank you. Sure. Another question from Tony Mendoza.
Yeah, and I think that Mr. Valadeo was kind of talking a little bit about that, and there's a few things I think that still need to be clarified. I just don't know if by rushing through it, I don't know if you're going to be able to do it, or maybe when you get to the Senate side, maybe you get to fix it over there. I don't know. I'm hoping that you will address it though before it comes back, or as it moves through the process. I supported the same legislation last year. It was a different author, different scenario, but the intent is good. I understand what you're trying to accomplish here. I think it's great. It does get. I think the dropping it to 10,000. I think it can be an issue. I think it's very low, and on top of that, you're going to have a lot of people to choose from, or not. You know what I mean? I think focusing on larger amounts is better, but something that hopefully you'll work on that. The issue where if there's one entity, like say, I think that this concern was brought to me that what are the Chamber of Commerce, California Chamber of Commerce? They have different companies that give to them, and then they're the ones that sponsor it. The people that actually give them the money are not going to be listed because it's only the chamber that's headed all this money. So this bill doesn't really address it. I think you need to really look at that because that's who you're trying to talk. That's what all of you are talking about is who is really providing that money because it's not the top 3 donors. By that time, you only have one name, so you're not. you're not really at the problem yet because you're doing something else. So I'm hoping that you can, and I don't know what the answer is. I'm just hoping that you can address that, and maybe the internet issue as well. You know, there's a few things out there that are still lingering that I think need your attention. That hopefully before it goes to a vote, the body or as it moves to the process, you'll get an answer or try to resolve it.
So just to clarify on that one point, on the internet, you want us to further clarify, but your desire would be to have some controls over.
Well, yeah, I think if you're the pop-up ad or any kind of ads on there, it's the same thing.
Okay,
and I don't see any samples here as far as, okay, this is most mailers are typically 8.5 by 11, maybe a little bit larger. What percentage of the ad will take space with the 3 logos? If you had something visible, it would really be helpful for me to see and all of us to understand what you're trying. Because, you know, when you're in our business or any business, you kind of like, okay, you have to pay for your ads. You have to make sure, okay, what is that? Half of the page will go to their logos, or you're actually promoting them at one point or another, right? So, you know, I'm trying to just, you know, that kind of clarity would be kind of nice for me. I don't see it quite here, but I support your intent. I support what you're doing. I just have some concerns as far as there's some questions that need to be answered, and maybe the limits. I think 10,000 is a little bit low, but I do support your intent. I do support the bill. I did support it last year. I just hope that you answer those questions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mendoza.
Any other questions? All right. Well, I'd like to thank the author for introducing this bill. In fact, I'm a principal co-author of it, for full disclosure. AB 1148 will improve transparency in political campaigns and advertisements, and for that reason, I support the bill, and I recommend an aye vote. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Fong.
Aye.
Fong, aye. Logue. Bonilla. Bonilla, aye. Allen.
Aye.
Allen, aye. Mendoza. Mendoza, aye. Swanson.
Swanson, aye.
Swanson, aye. Valadeo.
5-0, it's out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I appreciate and we'll take the comments as we move forward.
Okay. I don't know. I know. It doesn't look like you know it's not here, so you can. Yeah, I think you can. Yeah, you can present. Okay, great. I'll see you in a bit. We'll wait. You're a busy man today, huh? Assemblymember Jones, AB 860.
I like this no waiting. Thank you. We're also Assemblymember Mansour will probably be joining me to present as well on this bill. So I'll get started in his absence. Let me just show a couple of things here that I'm going to talk about.
You collect campaign brochures?
Actually, these are approved and mailed by Rules Committee here in the legislature, believe it or not. So I understand that the previous bill had some discussion regarding special interest money as well. So, Mr. Chairman and members, I am pleased to bring before you AB 860, which will prohibit direct political contributions by corporations and unions to political candidates, you and me. The bill also will prevent government employers from deducting money from worker paychecks that is then used to engage in political activity. I think we can all agree, as was mentioned earlier in the day, that special interest money is a big problem here at the Capitol. In fact, the California Fair Political Practices Commission released a report in March of 2010 entitled Big Money Talks, which assembled comprehensive data on political activities by special interests. The report revealed that over $1 billion has been spent by the top 15 special interests in the past 10 years. $1 billion in the last 10 years. Public employee unions occupy the top 2 positions. The remaining are from corporate interests. Members, AB 860 will apply to all election campaigns because every level of government faces enormous influence from corporate and union special interests, whether it's cities, counties, or the state. In spite of what those in opposition have stated, this is not an anti-union or corporations bill. AB 860 establishes basic campaign finance reforms that pertain equally to unions and corporate entities. This is a unique opportunity for all of us here in the legislature to defend working Californians against all special interests. If a political candidate or organization needs financial contributions, then they should be direct and ask for them. They should not be acquiring them through an employer, whether government or corporate. When money is withheld from an employee's paycheck and subsequently earmarked for political purposes, an environment is created that is ripe for corruption. What I've presented here, members, is signed support for AB 860 just from my district. Over 400 signatures from a mailer that I sent just to one district in the state of California. Multiply this by 80 districts, and members, I believe we have very good support from the voters and the public in California for all of us to work together, Democrats and Republicans, in a bipartisan manner to eliminate the special interests that the voters in California are very upset with. I ask for your aye vote, and Assemblyman Mansour, as co-sponsor of the bill, would like to speak to it as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Well, thank you for allowing me to speak here and for your time. I will just briefly say, obviously, I support this wholeheartedly. I think it's very interesting that, the Republicans have a none recommendation on this bill, and the Democrats, I'm assuming, have a no recommendation, and that tells me there must be something good in it. For there to be some general opposition. But our institution is broken. Our system is broken. It needs to be fixed. There is a ballot initiative that is very similar to this that will be on the November ballot. So the electorate, the people, are behind this. It's a matter of if we bring it forward now in this fashion, we can all have a say in fashioning something that will work. But the electorate is behind it. I ask you to get behind it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any witnesses in support of this bill? None? Witnesses in opposition, please come up.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Michael Bolden with the Service Employees International Union. We oppose this bill for several reasons. We believe that under the guise of parity, this bill tries to make it appear that corporations and labor unions are equal under its contents. However, currently corporations are able to bundle and commingle their money in ways that are difficult to trace. Two, corporations typically do not ask their employees for contributions when it comes to campaigns through payroll deduction. That is a labor union function. Three, we believe that this bill is simply an attempt to silence the voice of the workers that we represent and having a say in the candidates that they elect. So for those reasons, we oppose.
Mr. Chair and members, Caitlin Vega with the California Labor Federation, also here in opposition. As Mr. Bolden pointed out, this really is not a measure aimed at parity. This is a measure aimed directly at the heart of the way that labor unions engage in politics, and that is through payroll deduction, which would be banned whether or not the workers wanted that money to be spent in that way. So it's not about worker choice. It's an absolute ban on the way that unions engage in politics. Right now, what happens when workers get together and make these decisions, they are made democratically. When workers don't like the way the money is being spent, they can participate in their union. They can affect the way that things are done. Our institutions are democratic, and that's the way these decisions should be made. There should not be an absolute ban which excludes the voices of workers. What this would do is it would mean that there would be one side that gets to speak in politics, and that is the corporate side, which would continue to be able to participate through independent expenditures, and there would be no one on the other side to speak up for workers and on behalf of working people. We're strongly opposed.
Mr. Chairman and members, Jai Suprasad with the California School Employees Association. We're also here in opposition. I just want to make two quick points. I don't want to repeat what others have said already, but you know, the special interests really are the people keep bantering that term around. In this case, for unions, which uses this process, the payroll deduction, to pool resources to speak out for our members, we are school employees, teachers, firefighters, nurses. These are the people who allow us to have a civilized society, so to speak. We are there to protect all members of the community. When budget cuts are coming to us, they are now. Who are out there in the forefront speaking against some of these cuts? It's our members, it's all the folks who would be hurt by this measure. And this has been attempted, my second point is that it's been attempted a couple times before. The voters have said no. So I just want you to please oppose this legislation. Thank you.
Craig Brown for the California Correctional Peace Officers Association and the California Statewide Law Enforcement Association in opposition to this bill for the reasons cited.
Shane Gussman on behalf of the Teamsters, the United Food and Commercial Workers, Unite Here, the Amalgamated Transit Union, and the Machinists also oppose this bill.
Mr. Chairman, members, Christy Bauma here representing the special interests who call themselves firefighters in the state of California, seeking to find better ways to protect the public safety. We're in opposition.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, Lee Sandall on behalf of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, and we are opposed to this legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, Jeremy Smith here on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council. We represent about 350,000 construction workers in the state of California. I would say a couple things very briefly. One, this is aimed right at unions and the labor movement. I think it's very telling. I think I'm the last person to oppose this bill. There are no Chamber of Commerce isn't here. There are no business interests here to oppose this bill because it doesn't affect them. This is aimed directly at how unions solicit their members to get some money to do political action committees. Secondly, corporations, by several studies, already outspend the labor movement 10 to 1, 20 to 1. It varies, but it's always above 10. And third, we have already in place a mechanism for members of our unions to opt out of the contribution process. So for those reasons, I would just end by saying the people of California have spoken, as Mr. Mansour said, however, oppositely, lastly in 2005, and have voted down similar initiatives as to this one in the past. And I think the electorate is very clear about how they feel about this. So for those reasons, we oppose the bill. Thank you.
Any of the witnesses in opposition? Any questions from Assembly members? Mr. Valdale?
Obviously, labor's got an issue with this, so just out of curiosity, if an employee decides, how does the process work? Do they ask to be removed from contributing, or they have to ask to be part to contribute?
Under current law or under this?
Under current law, and what does this change?
Under current law, what will change, and I'm glad you asked because it goes back to one of the witnesses in opposition said two things. Number one, it'll silence workers, and number two, it would be an absolute ban, and that's both of those are completely inaccurate. What the change that this makes is currently public sector labor union workers, while it's true legally that they can opt out, in many cases it's very difficult, and there's a lot of peer pressure and other pressure from a person who's trying to opt out of their public sector labor dues, to the point where in many cases they have to hire an attorney to represent them to accomplish that and protect their job at the same time. So to answer your question directly, what does it change? It changes those union dues that a public employee pays now compulsory. They have to pay them. They're removed from their paycheck. They don't have a say in where that political action money goes to. They don't have a say in what that political action money pays for. And they don't have a say in the candidates that it's contributed to. The change that this law makes is it makes those contributions for political activity voluntary. So the employee, the state employee, still has the option of making those dues payments. They still have the option of being involved in the political process. It's just a voluntary process where they have to sign a document each year stating that, yes, in fact, they do want these dues to be collected and used for political action. So it changes it from compulsory to voluntary.
Change it from opt-in to opt-out, or opt-out to opt-in.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Would you like an answer?
Mr. Chairman and the committee, in my union, in the Longshore Union, as a member, you have an option to either have your dues taken right out of your paycheck, or you can pay it on your own and not have it taken out. So this is something new to me, but for my 50,000 members up and down the coast, this is how it works for us. And when you opt, and when you decide not to have your payroll deduction made, nobody knows about that except for the Secretary Treasurer, who makes that arrangement with the employer.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just address that real quick. There is a difference in how some private sector labor unions operate versus government employee labor unions. So I don't disagree with the statement, but I'm not qualified to answer on his specific union if it's accurate or not. But I will state for the record here that some private sector labor unions do operate differently than public sector.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Mike Allen?
No, just a comment that I was a labor attorney for many years and also worked with labor unions. And the Supreme Court has spoken many times, both for private sector and public sector employees, to protect their First Amendment rights and their ability to opt out. And I've seen it administered, and essentially it's been done in accordance with the law, and that hearings are held if people argue about the amount of money or the purposes. But the legal procedures were put into effect many years ago by the Supreme Court to protect employees both in the private and public sector. So I think, in my opinion, this bill isn't needed.
Okay. Any other questions? Bill's been moved. Second? And second? Mike Allen? Okay. Unfortunately, I don't think this bill provides a balanced approach. By prohibiting payroll deductions from being used for political purposes, this bill targets a major source of funds for unions. It doesn't affect the ability of corporations to spend unlimited amounts of corporate funds on independent expenditures and ads supporting or opposing ballot measures. Furthermore, under existing law, every worker has the ability to opt out of paying union dues for political purposes. I believe that this bill is a solution in search of a problem, so I will not be supporting this bill. And as a teacher, I like to have that choice of paying into the union dues for political purposes or not, and so just my personal preference as well. Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Mr. Chairman.
Sandra Swanson, do you have a question?
Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to confirm that I'll have an opportunity to close before you.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, okay, thank you.
Please close.
Okay, great. Then if you have a question, I'd love to answer it. Or.
Oh no.
Okay. All right. Did you have anything that you wanted to? If you do, that's fine.
No, it's okay.
Okay. I just wanted to address some of the statements brought up this afternoon from the opposition, and one of the comments that the chairman and Mr. Allen mentioned is the Supreme Court has spoken several times on this type of issue, most recently in contributions directly to candidates versus in independent expenditures. And one of the things that this bill does protect and keep in place is the labor union's ability to have independent expenditures on behalf of a proposition or on behalf of a candidate. So we are not trying to suppress the free speech of the labor unions or the corporations. Both entities will still have the full and complete ability that they have now. Nothing changes in regard to independent expenditures. What it does change is direct contributions to candidates. And basically, it'll be matching our contribution rules to rules very similar for U.S. Congress, U.S. Senate, and the U.S. presidency. Currently, under federal law, congressmen and senators cannot receive direct contributions from labor unions or corporations. So if it's good enough for the U.S. Congress, why can it not be good enough for us? So we're matching part of the federal rules on federal campaigns. And I think I want to underscore the importance of independent expenditures in free speech. That is a very important element of the political process in America. Being able to speak freely for a candidate or a proposition that you support or do not support. And this bill does not impact that. So I think that's basically on that. I want to close with, we sent this mailer out to my district. District-wide, every voting household in my district received this. And we received over 400 replies with the absolute incredible majority, over 95% of the respondents to this mailer, and this mailer was approved by the Rules Committee here in the Assembly, responded in favor of the bill. So I underscore that to just make sure that you folks understand that this was a level presentation of the bill. It was a fair presentation of the bill. And for it to get that kind of response tells me that there's an overwhelming support statewide for reforms, political campaign finance reforms similar to this. I'm not going to give you all of these because I don't want to clutter up your desk, but what I will do is I'll present you with an Excel spreadsheet with every individual's name and address that responded to this, so you'll have it in an easy-to-review tool. Okay. Thank you very much. I urge an aye vote.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Fong,
Nay.
No. Just wanted to make a statement, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
The front of the brochure says it's broken.
Yes, sir.
Well, that seems to suggest something negative, not that it's an even playing field. And
the front of it says
neutral document.
It says Sacramento is not just broke, it's broken. We must protect working Californians and stop special interest money.
Okay. Well,
So I mean, it's not Republican or Democrat. It's not it's not partisan. It's just stating a fact that I think many of us agree that a lot of things up here in Sacramento could work better.
Well, the fact of the matter is that working families need to have a way to participate in our democracy fairly. And it seems like, given the decision of the Supreme Court to allow unlimited spending, I mean, it's sort of a little ridiculous notion to think that families shouldn't be able to organize and be able to participate and get their opinions put forward. And this measure seems to is designed to smother that participation. And I think it's unfortunate because it just moves us in the wrong direction. So I'm not going to support the measure. And I think that, you know, it is not as transparent as you're suggesting here. There's a lot of people in the state that feel that see this, what we do up here, as a problem. And so we start off, when you present it that way, you know, it's pretty easy to get the answer you anticipate. But I appreciate your effort, but I can't support you today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Fong,
No.
Fong, no. Logue, Bonilla, Bonilla, no. Allen,
No.
Allen, no. Mendoza, no. Mendoza, no. Swanson,
No.
Swanson, no. Valadeo, Valadeo, aye.
I'm sorry, 5-1 against, but you'd like to reconsider it?
No, we'll let the vote stand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. No, I got it.
Okay.
Thanks for coming down.
Mr. Mendoza, AB 785. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Martin.
I can't believe they okayed the
Rules,
trying to set something like that up.
They forced you to come out. They forced all of us to come out. Okay, Mr. Mendoza, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I'm here to present AB 785, a bill that will encourage greater transparency and help maintain impartiality to the decisions entrusted to us as elected and appointed public officials. AB 785 addresses troubling circumstances where family members lobby an elected official and or its body to influence decisions that result in material financial effect for the family member as a result create a financial benefit through an act to an official governmental decision. These circumstances create ethical gray areas that are difficult to navigate, and AB 75 aims to clarify conditions that should apply. AB 75 provides that an elected official be deemed to have a financial interest in a government decision if a vote to approve, modify, or cancel a contract creates financial gain for an immediate family member, acting as an agent for or representing another person before the voting body, or if the family member is a director, officer, or partner in a business where the contracting decision will have a material financial effect. AB 785 further defines immediate family members to mean spouse or domestic partner, child, parent, sibling, or the spouse or the spouse or domestic partner of a child or sibling or parent. As with conflict of interest provisions already in the PRA, should these circumstances present themselves, the elected official is to recuse him or herself from voting. In summary, AB 785 promotes public confidence in public agencies and its officials, ensuring that official conduct is above reproach. And I respectfully ask for your vote.
Okay. Any witnesses in support?
Mr. Chair, Tony Triguero on behalf of the California Teachers Association. We had a support position on the earlier version of the bill. We don't have an official position on this bill, but we do vigorously believe that all decisions made by public officials should be made without the taint of any external inferences, and so we believe that this bill at this late date should be passed, and we should continue to work on the interest of the public in making sure that decisions that are made by public officials are in fact made strictly based on what the issue is. And I point out in the analysis on the example that was given in number 3 that we agree that That is an example of what should be as part of the public's right to know who's making decisions and by whom. So thank you very much. We request an aye vote.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition?
Hi, good afternoon. Natasha Carr on behalf of the League of California Cities. We are opposed to this measure, but I want to be very clear that our position doesn't mean that we're closed off to having a discussion about where the Political Reform Act is inadequate. We think it's important that we do address any inadequacies in the Political Reform Act, and we're happy to have that discussion. Bless you. But if there, but if we are going to make such significant changes to the PRA, we want to make sure that the right people are in the room having discussion. The League has several experts that are attorneys that deal in this on a day-to-day basis, and they'd be more than happy to have a discussion about where we can make those changes to the Political Reform Act. Late last week, I gave the language to the League's FPPC committee to review, and they did raise a few concerns, and I want to share just a couple of those with you. First, the Political Reform Act, as you know, has always dealt with preventing public officials from making decisions that financially benefit them. And what this bill does is it changes that long-standing rule, and it applies the restrictions of the PRA to decisions where a public official may not actually have a financial interest. So making this kind of a change has a couple of consequences. And first, it creates a fictional financial interest, again, creating a financial interest where one may not actually exist. And secondly, it kind of muddies the waters in the Political Reform Act. We think that the way that the bill's been written, it could cause confusion. And in laws that are super complex, like the Political Reform Act, we want to make sure they're very clear. So again, we want to work to try to make this as clear as possible. And then secondly, the bill introduces, this is a little more specific, but the bill introduces a new definition of immediate family member. It's new, and it's an additional definition. There's already a definition of immediate family member in the Political Reform Act. So this would be an additional definition of an immediate family member, and we think having two definitions would be confusing to our local elected officials. So that's another concern of ours. So I want to thank you for your time, and I hope that should the bill get out of committee, that the author would be willing to work with the League's experts on this issue. So thank you.
Thank you for the, Mr. Chair, if I may answer.
Sure, go ahead.
I definitely look forward to working with the League. I didn't think they were be opposed to this issue. I do want to address some of the things that they mentioned as far as fictional financial interests. This bill is clear. If you're a governing body, which would be on the city council or any other governing board, I sat on city council for 10 years, and I saw this personally where a council member was voting on his brother's contract or his dad's contract, and there was no conflict of interest. And that just blew me away. And I said, I don't know. I asked the city attorney several times, how could this be? Because, and just like she said, we're redefining this, and that's correct. The current law says that I have to have a financial relationship with that person that we're going to vote on. Doesn't mean a blood relationship, financial. Just because maybe my dad or my brother don't have a financial relationship with me, just the mere fact that they're coming before me as a elected body, I think would be kind of a conflict of interest that you would vote on something that will benefit a family member that close to you. And I think this is where the issue that we're trying to address here. Just that simple.
Bill's been moved. Seconded by Mr. Allen. Is there any other opposition to this bill? None? Okay. Question.
So is the bill that calls for just disclosure? In other words, if you're a member of the council and your brother is benefited because of an action, you have to disclose that and then recuse yourself?
Well, not disclose so much, but just recuse yourself. Right now, the current practice is if you have a conflict of interest, you kind of say what your conflict is and you walk out. You can't vote on it. That's sort of the same. That's what the PRA currently says, and we're trying to add this to there, saying if you do have a blood relative in front of you asking for something, contract or otherwise, you should kind of step out.
You can't vote on it.
No, you can't vote on it.
But the relative can still
Oh yeah, the rest of the council can still vote, and that's where we're supposed to be. You got four members. I mean, a body of 5, 7, or 9 could adequately vote on that particular subject, and it doesn't.
So if you have a relative, if you live in a county and you vote on a county budget, and your relative, you have a relative, any relative that works for the county. worked for the county for 20 years.
No, doesn't apply to them.
Pardon?
It wouldn't apply for the relative that works for the county.
It wouldn't. Even though you approved
Yeah, no, that's just that helps all the employees of that county. If you say your cousin or your relative is coming before the board and asking for a specific thing, a contract or anything like that, then you have to recluse yourself because he's asking for right, not general employment like that. No,
so I would just ask
no,
no.
Yeah, no, it's exactly. We all have relatives that work in different places. Yeah, no, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't be the issue.
My wife has 17 brothers.
I am not going to touch that one, Mr. Swanson.
Okay. Mr. Allen?
Assemblyman Mendoza, with this bill, I'm going to support it today, but to me it has like a big yellow light because I'm almost worried about the laws of unintended consequences. So, while you're working with the California Teachers Association, the League of Cities, and their committee, is just that, obviously things like having two different definitions of immediate family are concerned, but just in terms of when you go this, I know it's well intended, and I think you're going in the right direction, but it's kind of like a yellow light for me to really kind of think this through with folks who are going to be affected by it, because it's so easy to get caught up in violation of the existing statute. So we want to make sure that it's something that's clear and understandable and workable. But I will support it today.
I agree with you on that. So,
Andre?
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, I would say that I would also vote to move the bill forward, but I would encourage you to have these conversations, so that we can make sure there aren't any unintended consequences. And in fact, many of these changes always have additional consequences. And so I think that the offer to sit down is very important. I can't promise what I'll do when the bill hits the floor until we see the final version, but I would encourage it to go forward today.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And we'll definitely look at that. I don't want it to be any unintended consequences because I'm in the same situation as you, and I don't like surprises. But we've been working really close with the committee. They've done a great job to kind of narrow it down and be specific and be clear. And I will continue to do that with the opposition and anybody else that comes up. For sure.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the author for trying to address the issues that you're trying to address in this bill. I wish the public officials would just recuse themselves to make it easier. But, sometimes we need a bill like this to make sure that they do the right thing. And at the same time, creating conflict of interest laws, we need to assure that the diligent public officials can reasonably comply with those rules. So I appreciate the author's attempts to narrow this bill. I'm recommending support of this bill at this time and continue to work with the opposition.
I will.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Fong.
Aye.
Fong, aye. Logue. Bonilla. Bonilla, aye. Allen.
Aye.
Allen, aye. Mendoza.
Aye.
Mendoza, aye. Swanson. Swanson, aye. Valadeo.
Aye.
Valadeo, aye.
6-0, Sal. Great. All right.
Okay, bro.
Yes.
I'm just trying to make it simple.